Hi there, and welcome to the Ultimate Success Podcast. I'm Mark Peebles, here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. We have an amazing guest today, and I honestly feel like I've been saying that a lot lately because we have had such a phenomenal streak of guests. But today, this is a man that I really, truly see eye to eye with. No, seriously, like we're both 6'7". And the first time I met him, we walked into a room, we made eye contact above everyone else's heads. And once we met, we instantly became great friends. He truly is someone that I admire in the industry. I have a ton of respect for. He's a phenomenal instructor. In fact, he's the owner of Prepare Real Estate Academy, which is a real estate academy in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He has been a broker in this real estate business, been in the business since 2008. We're going to talk about all of that today. And Breck has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. And I think you're going to learn a lot today about real estate education before you're licensed, after you're licensed, and as you grow in your career. We're also going to talk about Breck going to prison. I think you're going to want to hear that part of the story. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my great friend, Breck Miller. My good friend, Breck Miller, welcome to the Ultimate Success Podcast.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here.
Man, this is way too long coming. Like, should have happened probably a year ago, right after we met the first time. But I'm really glad to have you on today.
No, I'm glad to be here.
I think this is going to be a great conversation for our audience because you bring a totally different background than anyone else that we've had on. Now, you know, Breck is a national speaker. He actually is in front of a lot of agents across the country sharing his message. But Breck, give us a little bit of background. Tell me, like, what brought you to this point in real estate, and tell everyone what you're doing now that is so unique to our audience.
Sure. Well, how far would you like to go back? Because I was born. No, just kidding. We won't go back to the birth.
Well, I don't care. You can go back as far as you want, man. I am locked in.
Well, I was born in Fargo, North Dakota. So if you hear the O's coming out,
yeah,
that's why. No. So I went to college to go into parish education and administration, to do education in the church.
Yeah.
And did that for 5 years and needed a change. And so we moved home, and I decided to get my real estate license and make my millions in real estate. And so I got my license in July of 2008. Great time to jump into real estate.
Absolutely. Brilliant time.
But I survived. And in the meantime, got into teaching, first of all, some continuing education through our local association, and then also teaching pre-licensure at the local tech school. So that kind of brought me back into education in a little bit different direction than I was really expecting when I laid out my career path for my whole life. And so I sold for about 5 years and realized I missed teaching, had an opportunity to go to a not-for-profit organization here in town doing financial literacy and homebuyer education. So I really shifted from the selling piece to primarily that consumer education piece of it, and did that for about 7 years. And then a buddy here in town called me up and he said, hey, we need an operations coordinator for the team. With the plan, we're going to open up a brokerage. Wow. And, you know, might be in a couple of years, but I'm going to need a responsible broker to manage it. And a couple of years turned into 18 months, which turned into 6 months, which turned into, how about next quarter? Wow. So I managed the brokerage for 4 years. And in the meantime, we were kind of looking at some ways to diversify, and that education piece has always been there. And so we decided here about a year and a half ago to open up a real estate school. And so that really shifted me from focusing on the sales end, primarily with education on the side, to shifting to where now my focus really is on the real estate school, but still selling on the side of things. And I think that connection is so important that I don't want to give either of them up because they feed each other. But so it's been a bit of a journey, been a bit of a winding road, but we're in a really good place.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you are in pre-license education. Yeah. Another thing that I love, though, that I think will contribute to the conversation is it's not just pre-license that you teach. You're also teaching continuing education outside of the school, right?
Yes. Yeah, we do pre-license here, both hybrid and online courses, but then working to do that CE. It's two actually quite different audiences, but it's fun to watch people as they're coming in and just have this dream of building a real estate empire. And then once they get through licensing exam and be able to stay with them through their career and help with that education along the way.
So let's talk about education, and let's start with pre-licensing. I think if we look across the country, I mean, pre-licensing varies state by state. I know where I am in Ohio, it's 120 hours of pre-licensing. What is it in South Dakota where you are?
South Dakota is 116 hours. And then, yeah, very close to the same. You get your broker associate license, and then you have 30 hours of continuing ed in your first licensing period. And then we go from there.
So is that first licensing period like 1 year?
Up to 2 years. So
up to 2 years.
Anywhere from a year, depending on where you get your license, because they all expire at the end of the year. So if you were to get your license now in July or August, it would be through the end of next year. So yeah, depends on when they get their license.
Okay, so I think pre-licensing across the country, there are states that require like 40 hours, which to me it's crazy. Right. We're going to give someone 40 hours of education and then walk them, into handling someone's largest financial asset, right? And so that's always been a kind of a sticking point for me. And even quite frankly, 116 hours or 120 hours in Ohio, to me, it's not really enough. So what is the purpose of pre-licensing? Because we hear all the time that you take the pre-licensing just to pass your test. From your perspective, owning a business, owning a school and running a school, what's the purpose of the pre-licensing for the new agent?
I think that depends on who you ask. Whether you're asking me or those coming to take their classes, for them it very much is, I need to get through the state exams.
Right.
That's just what their focus is. That is one of the things I've really enjoyed being able to build out through my own school is, yes, we cover everything to get through the state exams. I have added in pieces, not that they're going to be a fully developed agent when they're done with class, but it's going to at least get them through the first couple days in the office, right? So we're talking about getting them started in building out their sphere, building out their business identity, and coming up with some idea of how you want to market yourselves. I also roll in the online portion of it, a video class that is just how homes are built. Everything from the difference between the footing and the foundation to the different types of roofing materials. Because yes, we sell ourselves and our services, but it does come back to that physical property as well. And so I've tried to add in some of those things, and some students understand it, some don't. Some just want to get through the test. It's what it is.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is so important because there's so many agents that come into the business, and we see it all the time. I own a brokerage, and I see it all the time where agents come in and they think because they've been through the classes that that they're going to walk in, announce they have their real estate license on social media, and all of a sudden the business starts flowing because it's easy. Real estate's easy, right? Right. It's yeah. I mean, like you've made your millions already in real estate, right? I mean, it's so easy.
Yeah.
And it barely took you any time to do that. No.
Right.
Okay. So,
and that's why I think part of the conversation, even in pre-license, is some of them are coming in with already having that connection and that relationship with a company, with a brokerage. But if they aren't, whether they are or aren't, we still have the conversation over you are sharing your commission with your responsible broker. That needs to be an investment, not an expense. Meaning, what are you getting out of that from your brokerage? Is that mentorship, supervision? Is it education that they provide, tools that they provide? Never saying which is right or wrong, but how does that match up with what that new agent wants their business model to look like? And what are they getting for that commission that they're sharing with their broker?
Right. So then, like at your school, obviously you're part of a brokerage. Are you still a broker at your brokerage?
So I'm designated broker, which in South Dakota means I'm like the backup to the managing broker, responsible broker, how we call it here. Yeah. So still involved. And I think that's important for me personally because it still keeps me engaged with the market and what's going on out there.
So are you in like with your school, is your school specifically tied to your brokerage or do you have agents that don't come to your brokerage that come through the school?
We were very intentional about creating it as a separate entity. I am in separate space with that. The only thing the brokerage really provides is that experience and relevance.
Yep.
We are not a big enough market nor brokerage to support the school just based on our own agents.
Okay.
So I have to have that business relationship with other brokers across the state. And if we're here operating as a branch of the brokerage, the perception, which still kind of is a perception, but easier to address, is that, well, I'm going to then go in, spend all this time with them and cherry pick all the best agents out to come to my brokerage and talk them away from the other brokers.
Right.
So obviously don't do that. That is not what the school is about. We're very clear up front that there is no recruiting either in class by myself or by anybody else. This is a place for education, and so that those agents can go back to their brokerages that they're already connected with and be a great agent there. Okay,
so when we look at the requirements, and I know owning a school and being a part of the school to the extent that you are, you study what happens in education across the country, and I love the extras that you're teaching. Again, because I see so many agents come in that think that their brokerage is just going to hand them leads and that's how they're going to make their business happen. Right. I love that you said sphere of influence. Your new construction thing or explaining how a home is put together, to me, that's brilliant. But as you look across the education, the pre-licensing industry, those things are probably missing, but what else is missing from our pre-licensing today? If you could redo the curriculum across the country in every state, what would you put into pre-licensing now?
That is a great question. What would I add? I think the quicker answer is, what would I take out? Because let's be honest, how many legal life estates have you ever dealt with in the course of business, Mark? I mean,
yes. Sure.
But we got to know that for the exam. So I think it would be helpful if we could do a lot more of the daily applicable stuff that we really truly use, which is a little bit hard because even that changes state by state and how much we do. When you look at even the different forms of agency that are offered between the different states, right? Here we have, we don't offer sub-agency in South Dakota. That's not part of our state law, but otherwise we offer everything. And then you have states that only offer transactional broker. So that gets a little bit tricky to define. I think we could be much more focused. I think the biggest challenge is I don't know who's producing that test and who's developing the questions. So it seems to me, in my personal experience, you have people who are drawing questions based on content in a book.
Right.
Rather than having actual active agents and brokers involved in creating that knowledge test. So maybe that's the biggest thing we could add in is actual engagement and participation by active selling brokers out there to help that test be as applicable as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I like that. I do like in South Dakota how they require the 30 hours within those first 2 years. In fact, I've taught out there, and I know you teach a lot out there. Ohio requires 10 hours within your first year, and they are mandated 10 hours. But what I find is a lot of that information, it rehashes the things that you learned in the classes to pass the test.
Sure.
As you look at education after your license, and this, listen, if you're out there right now and you're like, well, I'm not a new agent, I'm tuning out. Don't tune out yet, okay? Because we're going to talk about the importance of continuing to grow and be educated in this business. But Breck, as someone comes out, what's the first thing they do, and what should they be learning over their first couple of years in the business?
I think the very first thing they need to be doing is connecting with an experienced agent, whether that is their managing broker, their team lead, or just somebody who's willing to mentor them. It is very much a case of that typical saying, right? You don't know what you don't know. And that's the hardest thing to figure out is what do I need to learn and what do I need to do to be successful? And so that's the first thing they need to do is make that connection. And then based on observing and learning and watching through that process, they need to begin to cherry pick subjects almost a little bit of what have I realized I don't know, and then go find the education to do that. Now, the challenge in that, I think, is even though it's a full 30 hours for your first actually 2 licensing periods, so 60 hours in your first up to full 4 years. They all have to be what are called required subjects in South Dakota. So that's defined, and that has to be ethics, fair housing, contracts, real estate math, those very specific subjects.
Right.
Okay? So we have the required subjects, we have the elective subjects. And there's always a requirement for at least some of them to be those required subjects. Some of those skills to really develop a successful real estate business are not included in the required subject material. So as a new agent, get the required hours that you need to get your license renewed. Yes, do that.
Right.
But the other way to look at education is not just a means to renewal, but to truly grow your business. So what other things do I need to learn? And then be okay with going out to get that education, even if it doesn't count for your renewal credits for your license. Because the other purpose, what good is your license if you're not making money? That's why pretty much all of us are in this business. If we really get down to it.
I mean, whatever.
In all the years, there's a couple of classes where just introduction conversation, I'll ask, would you do this business if you weren't getting paid for it? Right? And I've been teaching CE now for 16 years, I think.
Wow.
And I have had exactly one person say, I would do this if I weren't getting paid.
Wow.
And he was just licensed to help his daughter out with some open houses and something to do on the weekends. He was retired, didn't really care if he made money or not. 1 out of 16 years. So we do want to make that money. And sometimes we have to learn things that don't count as CE credits
Right.
in order to grow that business and be okay with it not being credits towards relicensure.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's another gap I see, and I want your thoughts on this, where it seems like we have a professionalism gap in the business, where you've got agents, high performers, very professional. And one of my favorite things, in fact, I'm working with an agent right now. Years ago, I went to a certified negotiating expert class, and he was in the class. He and I were both top agents in the market. And as we went around and introduced ourselves, one of the things that he said that always stuck with me was he was shocked that there were only 10 people in a class to learn about negotiation that, should have been packed with people wanting to grow and become, go to a higher level of professionalism in the business. And that always stuck with me. So you've got high performers that seem to want to grow in their professionalism, but then you've got a massive number of agents that if anyone could see behind the curtain, the kind of business they ran, they would run. Right. And so we have a huge professionalism gap. What's your observation? How do we fix the professionalism gap, and what's needed to fix it?
There are a couple of motivators in that, I think. First of all is money. Again, that's what it comes down to. Am I closing transactions? Am I bringing in the people, the clients who want to work with me and are willing to stick with me through the transaction? So there is certainly that piece. If they're not making money, they're going to hopefully go looking at why. Perhaps even presenting it as, you know what, you're making enough money now, but would you be okay making more money? Because that really is the result of a better educated agent, right? I think it also is going to come down to the role of the responsible broker, the managing broker.
Yep.
And with agents in most places being independent contractors, it gets a little tricky sometimes with that accountability piece, but there are ways to at least build a culture in your brokerage of growth. And whether you're providing those things or connecting them with those things, it's going to come down to the responsible broker caring more than just how many transactions that they closed.
Right.
It's about caring about them as a representation of the brokerage and our profession as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What are the big challenges that you're seeing, across the industry today as a broker, as a real estate school leader? What are the challenges that you're seeing that right now as an industry we need to get out ahead of?
I'm going to address those separately because I think they are a little bit separate.
Okay.
Brokerages, first of all, is communicating our value. That has always been a little bit of a thing. We've gotten better at that since the Sitzer-Burnett settlement. At least I think we have here about communicating why should you really make sure I get paid a certain amount of money. And so it's important for us to explain. For example, for a long time, it's always been, you know what, if something comes up, there's a problem with the transaction, I, as the agent, I'm just going to take care of it. I'm not going to make my clients worry about it. In their eyes, it's all, everything's good. The challenge in that is that from their perception, you didn't do anything.
Right.
Because they didn't know anything. You can still address those things, but we have to change our approach to things a little bit and at least educate them. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, this thing came up. It's a non-issue because I already took care of it, but I just want you to know that that did happen. So it's still a non-issue at the point they learn about it. It's still not a worry, but now they understand your value as the agent,
Yeah.
the value of the brokerage
So-
from the broker
so-
perspective too.
It's interesting you say this because, especially around Sitzer Burnett, so much of the focus was communicating value before they become a client. Like, I've got to communicate my value up front.
Mhm.
And what I'm hearing you saying that I love, this is a great shift in the mind, that value is communicated by your service and communication throughout the entire process.
Correct. If we want to look at it as, use runners for an illustration, right? We can be sprinters where we just sprint to the next client, sprint to the next transaction, closing, and then we move on to the next one. Or we can look at it from more of a marathon perspective, right? There is 26.2 miles of travel, and your closing with them might be mile 18. So what are we doing up to that point, and what are we doing after that point? And building relationship and demonstrating value happens all the way through that, or at least reinforces what we have educated them on up front. It's got to be an ongoing thing.
I think it's funny that you use the example of runners. Now, no one can see us on camera, but could you imagine if we were runners next, like running with each other? I don't know if you're a runner or not.
No.
But yeah, so for the audience out there that can only see us sitting down from the torso up, Breck and I, we met at a conference, like instantly became great friends.
Yeah.
And we're both like 6'7".
That's right.
And yes, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's how I feel too. But the thing is that Rebecca, my Gen Z producer in the room, just put her head in her hand. So okay, but the thing is like I don't see us running anywhere anytime soon.
As long as I'm running faster than the person behind me and the bear behind them, I'm fine.
That's right. Or I carry a long enough stick that I can trip them and at least get out ahead of them.
Right.
You got to plan sometimes when you're not very fast. So
yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about before the side, conversation there. We were talking about the challenges in the industry, and so I love what you say about communicating value. Now, go to the real estate school owner, leader.
Sure.
What are the challenges you see on that side?
I think the value of a live instructor, first and foremost. Yeah. So many people are focused on, I'm just going to buy that online package, crank it out the last 2 weeks of December before I have to renew my license. It goes back to that idea that I'm just getting the credits for the sake of renewal, right? Where there's so much more that can come out of good education. But that takes at least a more specific dedication of time, because most of those classes are going to be happening during business hours, not at 10 o'clock at night. But also, and I certainly recognize it is a considerable expense for associations or brokerages to bring in good instructors.
Right.
And we understand the concept of you get what you pay for. And yet I also understand, especially here in South Dakota, where I'm dealing with associations that might have 60 to 70 agents total, right? And our local association does a very good job of providing live class. We bring in national level instructors, but we're in the very southeast corner of the state. You might be 5 hours away driving, and our interstate speed is 80 miles an hour. So we cover a lot of ground fast. But it's a long ways for them to go, because suddenly you have at least half a day to get to class, then you go to class, and then a half a day to get home.
Right.
I understand that difficulty and the challenge of those small associations. So I think the opportunity there is for associations to cooperate, and for us as instructors to be a little more flexible with how we present at times. I'm an in-person guy. I really
Yeah.
like to be in the room, but I'm going to have to be okay. And a lot of us have gotten much better at the virtual classes, but I think being able to meet the needs of associations, that everything's getting more expensive and
Yeah,
people
it
want to
is.
share less and less all the time. So how do we balance that with providing quality education?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we, I mean, if you have to do online, if you're in a place where you have to do online, or for the agents out there, because look, I'm in definitely a more populated area. Southwest Ohio is where I'm located. And of course we have people that listen to this from all over the country. So, definitely higher, more densely populated areas, but they're still choosing online, which you just challenged me to something. Anytime I meet with new agents, I do say, I always tell them I prefer live classes because I feel like I learn more and I get more, I get Breck's experience where
Right.
he's going to share a story that I'm not going to hear in the online course. Right.
Sure.
But do you think brokerages, when they're meeting with agents who are saying, I want to get into real estate, that they should upfront say, listen, if you can take a live class, here's who teaches the live classes in our area. We want you to take live classes. Do you think it really makes for better agents?
I do, very much
Okay.
so. And it comes down to, again, us as educators communicating that value proposition. What do I really bring? What does your investment in this program get out of that? Just recently added fully online pre-licensed courses through the academy here. And I didn't want to. I fought it.
Yeah.
But also realized that's just what some people need.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of adjustment in there too, that those online pre-licensed classes, that is everything they need to be able to go take their test, but that is actually bundled with 4 hours of one-on-one tutoring time. So they can go get everything that they need online, but if they need it to cover content, national, state, talk about testing strategies, that is built right in.
Yeah.
And that we can do in person here at the academy. We can do that over Zoom, however they need that. So it's been a little bit of adjustment for me too, of understanding needs, but still being able to provide that, I think, more valuable personal touch, just putting them together.
Yeah. So, so I think the takeaway that I would say here is, if you know someone, and all of us as agents meet people that want to get into real estate, I would encourage as much as possible for them to take the live classes. I think that's great advice from an actual instructor who then, right. I mean, I'm sure, Breck, you follow students, you see where your students go and you see their success rates. Mm-hmm. Do you see a higher success rate of students that actually take live classes versus go online?
That's a little hard because I just started the fully online course. I would say, so let me approach that a little bit differently, because we're a hybrid course. That's what I've traditionally offered, right? So they do that online home study portion, and then they come and do the in-person live classes, 40 hours of that. And I will say the difference between those who pay to start the course versus those who actually make it to the live classes, night and day difference.
Sure.
Right? If they are to the point of investing in those live classes, we see much better licensure rate, pass rate, everything. It is amazing to me how many people will pay for their registration and then never even start the course.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Why do you think
to
that
me.
is? Do you think that's a fear thing? Do you think that's a, I just changed my mind type thing? I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. I think some of it might be just because we make it so easy to sign up. They can do it right on the website. 5 minutes and you're registered. Where it was a good class tonight, a good idea, a good career path tonight, and then something changes at work, or they just actually take time to process through, and maybe not.
Yeah.
Any number of reasons in there that I see from people. Yeah.
So a couple things that you mentioned from your past that I want to go back to that I think would be valuable for people to hear. You know, we are in a time where there's a war going on right now, right? There's always someone trying to freak people out about the economy. There's, you know, political battles. There's all kinds of tension. It seems like at all times. In fact, I tell people, if you watch the news, they make their money by reporting bad stuff. That's going to be scary, right?
Right.
But you started your career in 2008, July. You said July of 2008, right?
Yes.
September 15th, the whole world crashes, and somehow you survived it. How did you do it?
I think the biggest thing I try to teach people, right? So yeah, we had 2008 and 8, 9, 10 and everything. I mean, some places in the country, you could go buy houses for 50 cents on the dollar or less.
Yep.
It's crazy. And then out of that, we had all of the TRID changes. Remember that?
Oh, I remember TRID.
And all of a sudden, oh man, you know what? Not as many people are going to get a loan. We're not going to be able to do a loan in anything less than 90 days, if we can even do it at all. And we got all these weird disclosures we got to deal with. People freaked out about it. And here we are now doing closings in 30 days or less, depending on your lender. And then we hit Sitzer Burnett, and everybody's like, how do we do this without being able to communicate commissions through the MLS?
Right.
And everybody kind of freaked out. And yet here we are, I think, actually communicating better about commissions than we were before.
Yep.
The settlement.
For sure.
Because now we actually have it in writing rather than just something on a website somewhere. So in all of those things, we're going to survive. We're going to be fine. The biggest thing is just breathe.
Yeah.
The people around us are more than emotional enough for everybody else. If we can be that voice of calm reason for people, I think most people are attracted to that and will pick up on that. It'll be fine. We will still be here tomorrow. We'll still keep going. We as agents will still have value for our clients regardless of where it's determined how much we're getting paid. So that's the biggest thing. Just be calm. We've been through all of these types of crises before, and we're still here.
Right.
So
and a lot of agents aren't, though. I mean, there's a lot of agents who fall out in the 2008s, and there are a lot of agents that fell out in 2024, and there's a lot of agents right now falling out of the business. But what is it about you as an agent that made you successful through 2008?
I think the ones who aren't making it are the ones who stopped breathing and panicked.
Right.
So keep moving forward. Were things slower in 2009, 10, 11? Yeah. Sure. But there were still a lot of agents making a living.
Yeah.
Right. We figured out the system with the TRID changes. We figured out the system with communicating compensation after Sitzer Burnett. We figured it out. The biggest thing is just stay calm, keep moving forward, which ties us back beautifully to all you got to do is keep learning.
Yep. That's it.
Keep learning.
And showing up. If you show up, showing up is half the battle. I mean, so many agents, when things get tough or things get scary, they let fear keep them from showing up and doing the stuff, you know?
Right. A term we use in the office, and I have to own it, is paralysis by analysis.
Yep.
I'll own it. I can get so deep in processing through, trying to figure things out, that I stop moving. Now I'm getting better at that because I have a couple of people who like to remind me of that. But that's the biggest thing, is keep moving. You will be fine. Even if you make a mistake, it's okay. One of our agents ended up with a fine to the association. It was like a $300 fine over some marketing that he did. And he still has been involved locally, state, nationally. He still is a great agent. In fact, even though he paid the $300 fine, it was some of the best marketing exposure he ended up getting.
Wow.
Now, I'm not advocating go out and break the rules.
Hey, break a real estate regulation, pay the fine, and it'll grow your business.
I'm not advocating that, but I'm saying he came out of it. He dealt with it, kept moving forwards, and is very successful today. So when we hit those bumps, breathe.
Yep.
Keep breathing, keep moving forwards. It'll be okay.
Now, that's great advice, not just for other agents. That's great advice for the public, for the consumer.
Yes.
You did consumer education. How do we educate consumers and continue to show them value? What are the things right now that you think consumers need to know from us as agents?
I think the number one piece I keep coming across is just how this process even works.
Yeah.
Whether they are a first-time home buyer or they've been through 6 transactions of their own home, it's just been a minute. They don't do it daily. And so how does this process even work? Talking with some people recently who they're looking for a home, and they just started going to open houses and then scheduled an open house with the listing agent, or excuse me, a showing with the listing agent, and I've been talking with them, and oh yeah, we'll bring you in when we're ready as our agent.
Right. Yeah.
It could be so much better than that. So I think it is helping people understand the process, which also ties back to our value of here's my value right up front, here's my value during the time of shopping, here's my value during negotiations up to closing, here's my value even after I'm there. So there is communicating that piece and helping them see that bigger picture, but also then living that out.
Yeah.
If they're not ready to go shopping and write an offer this week, are you as an agent okay still investing that time and energy into building that relationship and building a better client? We have to be okay with that.
Yeah, and one of the things when we talk about process, I had a coach and I shared my process with her, because for a buyer, I have a 6-step process that starts with, your pre-buying consultation, and then takes you all the way through home ownership, right? So it's 6 steps in the process along the way. And my coach said, I think that's important because process eliminates objections. If you educate someone on the process all the way through, especially up front, and then we have to have that buyer agency agreement signed, and you hand that document to them and you show them where the dotted line is to sign, they're more likely to sign because you have given them the process. You've educated them on the process, and therefore they have less objection to everything. Right. So process eliminates objections.
Yeah, and I think the important piece in that too is understanding why are they objecting, right? Yeah. So I will say, we think of being afraid of the dark as a kid thing, but there are a whole lot of adults out there who are afraid of the dark, literally, but also figuratively, because you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's coming at you, you don't know what you're walking into. And if we don't take the time to educate our clients, buyers or sellers, they're in the dark. Yeah. We have to own that we have left them in the dark and set them up for that fear of moving forward, right? So that
that's great.
educating them as their agent is what flips the lights on and shows them what's coming and gets them into that process that you're talking about, so that they know what's coming. Now I'm good with it. Okay, I see what's happening. Let's go.
Interestingly, I think that that doesn't just apply to a first-time home buyer or a first-time seller. Sometimes we think someone's bought a house before, so certainly they understand the selling process. So it doesn't just apply to those first-timers. Experienced buyers, they don't do this every day. And sometimes we forget that as agents, where we, I just did 10 transactions this spring. I know it like the back of my hand. Certainly that buyer understands that, or that experienced seller understands that too.
Right.
But the reality is they're still in the dark until you flip the light on what's going on in the current market and what the process. I mean, I think that's great. Now, but you're 6'7", you're not afraid of the dark, right?
So sometimes I was just at camp with my scouts up in northern Minnesota, and my normal routine is we get, lights out, get them all into their tents and kind of quieted down. And then I walk up to the showers, and just where we stay it's about a half a mile walk up to the showers. And I do that in the dark.
Oh,
and every once in a while I hear a little twig snap or something in the trees and realize, oh yeah, there's bears here.
Oh my goodness, man.
We've had them in camp. And you have that moment of, you get your flashlight out and start shining up in the trees and in the bush. It's, even for me being a big guy with facial hair and everything, it's a little intimidating, but that's where our people are at. The last number I saw, the average homeowner is in their home 12 years now. And so their last real estate transaction was 12 years ago. What has changed in real estate in 12 years?
Yeah, so much.
Yeah. So I understand. It's not knowing is a scary place to be. But that fear is a good thing because it also helps them understand and be more open to learning and growing if we're willing to provide that for them.
Yeah. Excellent. So, man, I wasn't sure if I was going to go here, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you, because I don't know the story. I've never gotten the story, but you went to prison.
Yes.
I've heard this. I've heard that you've spoken on this. You've told me that you've spoken on this. I've never gotten to hear the story, but are you willing to share? What's up with going to prison?
It is one of my favorite introductions to use, especially when it's been a whole bunch of people and everybody's kind of zoning out. You're in a room full of people, and my name's Breck with Prepare Real Estate Academy, and something interesting about me, I've been in prison 3 times in the same week. Head starts snapping around, like, who am I in the room with? No, so when I was doing that consumer financial education, part of what I did was monthly going into the local state prisons and teaching financial literacy and homebuyer education to guys who are about to get out.
Wow.
And it was, typically I alternated between the minimum security unit and the maximum security unit. And so right in there with them in the room, me and a room full of convicts, right? And I grew up here in Sioux Falls, and our state penitentiary is a giant old granite building on the bluff above town. Everybody knows where it is, what it is. I grew up knowing who's in there and what kind of people are in there and what they do. And I really grew to thoroughly enjoy my time. And you don't ever want to become totally comfortable there, but at least, you're able to do what you need to do. And what I found is a lot of those guys started taking the class because they were told they had to be there, and it would give them a day or two off the end of their sentence. And that was really their motivation for being there. But by the end, a lot of them were very appreciative because they don't want to come back to prison.
Yeah.
And they realize, they need to find a more stable way of doing this on the outside. But the piece that I particularly loved was a lot of them were really drawn to the idea of home ownership
Yeah.
because they understood the stability that homeownership provides to get themselves figured out, to get their behavior straightened out, to get their families back to stable again, for some of them getting their kids back into their home with them. Home, owned or rented, was the place or the foundation for them to do that.
Yeah.
And so they were really invested, and they loved talking about it and looking at options. I think a lot of them, unfortunately, never even realized how accessible home ownership really could be. Now, I know that's
Yeah.
a bit of a hot topic right now, and affordability and home prices, and that's a thing. But at the same time, at least here, it's actually a starter level home isn't that terribly much more expensive than paying rent on a decent apartment.
Right.
And when
And
you start,
I think we're seeing that a lot of places in the country right now.
Which then all of a sudden they start seeing the opportunity there of, I mean, I really could be a homeowner. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after I get out of here, but that's something I really actually can work towards.
Yeah.
And opening that up for them, turning the lights on, right? Pulling them out of the dark into seeing what is and can be ahead of them. They were very appreciative of being there and being able to go through that class by the time we were done with them.
I love that. So my friend Breck has been to prison multiple times in 1 week.
Right. That's
so
right.
I'm glad I know the story now. And that's actually, it's inspiring. I think, though, I've always said, like, if you're in this business and you don't care about people, you're in the wrong business.
This is a people business.
It is. And it's a home, like, home ownership changes lives. And if you look at, I don't have the stat right in front of me, but there's the stat out there that talks about or shows the actual data says that if someone is a homeowner for their whole life versus a renter for their whole life, their net worth is like $400,000 more than the renter, right? And that's the thing. And the renters, their net worth is something you would never imagine. It's like $10,000. I mean, it's crazy small.
Right.
Home ownership is so important, and that's why what we do is so critical. We are actually changing lives with helping people get into home ownership.
We are, which is a very exciting perspective to have on what we do. But I think we as agents also need to be very aware of the weight of that opportunity that we have with people, right? This is the impact we potentially have with them. And there's a certain responsibility, right? With what's the saying? With great...
Yes. I know exactly where you're going.
Comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Right?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Was that Marvel or is that biblical?
I think that might have been Tony Stark. I'm not sure.
It might have been. With great power comes.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of where we're at as real estate agents. The fact that we can educate people and open doors literally and figuratively for them. We have that responsibility to go out and be better for our people.
Yeah.
Because of the impact that has on our clients, our communities, everything.
Yeah, I just came to me as you were saying that, like, biblically, it says, to whom much is given, much is required. So very similar.
Yes. I like that source probably better.
Yeah, it's probably a little more reliable as a source. I don't know. I didn't plan to go here. Let me ask you this. Your faith has played an important role in your life, your marriage, your business. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Especially since I went to school for parish education administration. I
Right.
thought I was going to be in the church forever,
Yeah.
and I did that for 5 years, and have not worked full time in the church since then. Um, I find myself, though, in fact, probably by the time we're done here, I'm going to be going to buy hot dogs and buns and s'mores stuff because I've got a evening kayaking trip with my guys from the youth group tonight.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting that I think I actually do better ministry now as a volunteer
Yep.
than I did as a paid church employee because of all the other bureaucratic stuff that
Right.
comes with that. Now I show up and I do my thing. I care about my people. And if they don't like it, what are they going to do? Fire me?
Fire me?
Nobody's done that yet.
That's
So,
right. I
yeah,
love it.
so I do a lot with the youth. I'm at church camp for a week. I'm on praise team. I'm an elder at the church. I'm around, but
Yeah.
it is, I think, an important, for me, place of grounding outside of the craziness of real estate. Because whether you are struggling or super busy or just maintaining, this business gets crazy.
Yes,
And
it
it's
does.
important to have that place of grounding outside of business. For me, family and church have definitely been that important place to be. And it creates, I think, wherever your place of grounding is, right? And
Yep.
we have our opinions of where that is. Other people
Yep.
might have other opinions, but to have that place is crucial for you actually being a better agent when you are with your people.
Oh, totally agree.
Right?
Totally agree. I don't know. For me, I don't know what I would do without my faith in not just in business, but in a crazy world, and it does keep you grounded. Right.
Yes.
I think that's a great answer and I love it. Okay. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I ask every guest these questions. And so I want to know these for you.
Okay.
Who has been the greatest influence on your life and maybe career? The person that you would say that if it weren't for this person, I wouldn't be here today.
Oof. I think one of the people I've learned the most about sales from is actually my dad. He was a sales manager in the ag world my whole life, and he was on the road, covered a lot of ground. Even back to the days when he was selling seed, and he sold for, I don't know, half a dozen different companies, and he would switch occasionally because that's what happens, right? And so he was a sales manager, had usually farmers, dealers underneath him were actually selling the seed. And a lot of times it didn't matter what company or what brand of seed he was selling, his dealers moved with him. Because it wasn't about the product as much as they wanted to work with Rich because of everything that he did. And I think that concept applies regardless of what you are selling, right? It is, it's about the people and the relationships that you build. And my dad, I mean, he would work an 8-hour day with his clients and do another sometimes 8 to 10 hours of driving the same day to get to the next location so that he could be with his people in person, building that relationship and building business together. So I've learned a lot about sales from him.
Awesome. So what's a life lesson that you've had to learn the hard way that you wish someone had told you sooner?
I cannot please everybody. I want to.
Really?
I want people to like me. I want people to be happy. And I just can't. And so I have to prioritize my values and the people that are most important for me to maintain a relationship with. And so it really comes down to, can I sleep at night based on what I've done?
Yeah.
If so, then if that person isn't comfortable with that and makes them not want to work with me, I probably don't really want to work with them either. And that's okay, because I'm free to go find better situations, better clients, better opportunities that are out there.
That's great. I think that everyone should make that a takeaway. Because I think, especially successful agents tend to be, I'm not going to say they always are, but they tend to be people pleasers, right?
Yes.
And I think that's important advice. All right. So this is the Ultimate Success Podcast.
Right.
We talk about achieving ultimate success. What does ultimate success look like for Breck Miller?
Ooh, I think for me, success is to be that person who has brought value to people and helped facilitate them exploring something new, going new places, trying new things in life, and getting them to better places. Whether that is educating agents to be better agents, pre-licensees to become agents, it's working with my youth at church, working with my scouts, and just helping them explore the outdoors a little bit differently and try something they haven't tried before. To be that person who just helps them live a more full, more experiential life. That's my first priority.
I love it. It's about having impact is what you're doing. Breck, you have certainly had an impact on me. I really enjoy our friendship, and
I do too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Thanks for having me.
Education, no problem. I hope now. Listen, I'm asking this. I'm recording this, so you're going to have to answer this. And I'm going to hold you to it. Will you come back on the show one day?
Absolutely. I would love to.
Okay. Well, thanks, Breck. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll see you again in the future.
Blessings. Have a good one.
Well, my goodness, I just love Breck Miller. And again, I really enjoy my friendship with him. What a great episode today. Let me give you my 3 big takeaways today. This is something that we've started doing since launching Ultimate Success Podcast, is me sharing what I'm taking away from it. Because believe it or not, every guest brings so much value to my life and to my business. I'm still practicing as an agent. And so I get so much out of this. And so today, my 3 big takeaways from the conversation with Breck Miller. First of all, the value of live instruction. So when you have a choice to take a class online, whether it's pre-licensing or if you know someone that is getting into the business and they're looking at their pre-licensing, or continuing education, if you have the choice of live instruction or online, there is so much value to live instruction. I loved that he talked about that today. It's something that I've thought about, but I think I'm going to start communicating this to agents even more, that there's so much value in live instruction. Number 1. Number 2, communicating value isn't just about communicating with that prospect up front, the value that you're going to bring. The communication of value happens through the entire process. And I love the example that Breck used of handling an issue or a challenge along the way. And then we never communicate that to the client. Now, we don't have to go to the client and freak them out about the situation, but for them to know that there is so much that happens in the background of a real estate transaction that we often take care of without taking any credit or helping them understand what's happening in the background. It doesn't communicate the value of what we do. So we get to the closing table and they say, yeah, I really didn't have to do that much to make that money, right? And we all know how challenging this business is. So communicating value through the entire process. And then I loved the answer that Breck gave when I asked him the question that I ask everyone about a hard life lesson that you've had to learn that you wish someone would have told you sooner. He said that I can't please everyone. And I said it, during our conversation, But I feel like a lot of agents, we are naturally people, right? We are people. We love people. We want to be loved by people. And so sometimes we let that slip into people pleasing. And then when we find that we haven't pleased someone, it really eats at us. It takes us down a notch. It gives us less confidence for the next conversation. And so when he said, you can't please everyone, I think that's an important takeaway for all of us, right? There are just people that you will never please. Move on. Find the next client, because the bottom line is, if you provide great service, you're going to have lots of people out there who are going to become raving fans. So just know that you can't please everyone. Thank you so much to Breck for being on the show today. Breck is phenomenal. If he's ever in your area, you see Breck Miller speaking, you need to go into his live class and hear him speak. He really does command the room. Great guy. All right. Hey, listen, if one of the things he did talk about today, I'm going to bring this up. He talked about doing the things that are going to help you grow, and they might be outside of continuing education. One of those things that we offer is the Ultimate Success Framework, 100 Days to 100K. This is the online course. It's going to not just help you in your business, it's actually going to give you a great foundation, a life foundation that will help carry you and be better in business. And then we're going to focus in on managing your two most valuable assets, your time and your relationships. If we can help you zero in on those things, you can take your business and ultimately your life to a whole new level. So it's 100 Days to 100K. You can find the course. The online course is available through itsmarkpeebles.com. itsmarkpeebles.com. Check it out there. I hope that this episode has had as much impact on you as it has had on me. Have a great week. Bye now.